today, what I really want to talk around the theme. So the theme being reinvent yourself to being limitless. Wow. What a big vision. When you think of that title, how does it make you feel? It makes you feel strong. It makes you feel like a giant. But let's start with the basics. I have one simple question to ask each and every one of you. Who are you? I want you to ask yourself that question. Think, reflect. Who am I as a person, as a human being? Who am I? Now, when you think about who you are, there are two different dimensions that come into play. One is who you are in terms of your self-image, and the other is who you are in terms of your external image, how others perceive you. So now this is where you find the disconnection between how you see yourself and what you're actually projecting. Now, if I was to ask you from an effectiveness perspective, is it important in terms of how others perceive you as well, in terms of what you're projecting to the world? Absolutely, absolutely. But to what extent do we give it that importance? To what extent are we knowledgeable about how to apply science to develop this image that will work for you? Now, moving along, what I'd like to say is a very important statistic I came across, a research piece that said, on average, a human being generates 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. On average, all of us generate 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And on average, we generate about 2,500 to 3,300 thoughts per hour. Now that is what you're dealing with. The clutter in the world, the clutter in the mind. That's what you're competing with. The marketplace is not out there, it's in the mind. It's from here to here. Very significant. So my question to you is, in that context, how then do we stand out and influence people and business? Now, with that said, I want to remind you, ladies, that whether we realize it or not, we live in a massively brand conscious world. When you wake up in the morning and you get out of your bed and on your way to work, you have easily interacted with 10 to 15 different brands. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is why it is so important to realize and emphasize the value and significance of what the persona and the personal image can do for you and for the world. So what I want to tell you is a little bit of an example. How many of us like to go to the mall? I know I do. I love going to the mall. It's so exciting. When I think about going to the mall, goodness, I have endorphins releasing inside of me. I'm so excited. Why? Because the minute I go into a mall, I think, oh wow, I have choice. So though it's a consumer's heaven to go to a mall because of the amount of choices we have, it is a marketer's nightmare, right? Because of choice. If there is choice, what comes next? Competition. Wherever there is a choice, there is competition. You're competing for with someone else. The minute there's competition, what's required? Strategy. And the minute there's strategy, you do need the personal brand. You can't make any mistake about it. If you want to distinct yourself in the marketplace, if you want to be unique, if you want to be the preferred choice, then it is all about building and understanding and learning how to build your individual personal brand.
True. So I'm going to be talking about persona and image management, as I said, the core building blocks, as well as how you can look at trying to reinvent and reboot yourself. So now let's talk of PRIM. Let me just tell you what exactly is PRIM. I will not use my scientific definition, but I'll break it down for your easier understanding. So first thing is that when we're talking of PRIM, it's an ongoing process. Image management is not about a makeover. PRIM is a whole cycle. It's a journey. So like I said, it's an ongoing process. It's a proactive one. So nothing will happen just like that. It's not going to happen by default. It will happen only when you take an action. So remember, it's an ongoing and a proactive process. It involves two things, evaluating as well as controlling. Now, what do you evaluate and control? You evaluate and control the impact you make or your appearance makes on yourself as well as on others. Let me explain this a little better. Evaluating, controlling, I guess, now. But we're talking evaluating and controlling the impact you make or your appearance makes on yourself as well as on others. Appearance, my dear friends, is everything about you. How you talk, how you're dressed, how are you coming across to people, how are you responding to what they ask you. All of that put together is how you appear to people. Your image is an amalgamation of three core aspects: your self-image, your perceived image, that is of the perceiver, and the projected image, right? It's an amalgamation of all of that. So imagine if you are constantly going to be sending out mixed signals and mixed messages, you are confusing your perceiver. What is your message is something you need to decide. What is it that you want to be known as? Then make sure that your message is the same kind. Now, half of the time we make an error because the message we want to make is not actually the error is not the one that we are actually projecting. Senela asked you a question earlier. Who are you? Time you started getting that sorted, right from inside to the outside. Ask yourself, who are you? You have to ensure that whatever it is, you do a little bit of soul searching, all right? It's very, very important. And nobody knows that better than you. I'm moving on to the next point now, which is your core building blocks. I want to ask you a question. How many of you have realized that there are some things, some attributes of yours, some values, some core values of yours, which are very close to your heart? Have you ever thought about it? Have you ever tried to engage with them? Have you ever tried to consider how important they've been constantly in your life? And I want you to realize that as you move along, and I want you to also go back probably in your past and realize how many important decisions you took in life where somewhere down the line, all of these things were getting controlled because your values were in play. That is the importance of these building blocks. Your core values are your building blocks. And it's extremely important that you honor them and respect them. You must own them with full passion and with love because they are what you are today. Or how many of you are interested in me sharing 3 secrets of how you can make a great impact? Let me share the ABC of those secrets. A, appearance, which is talking about your clothing and your grooming. B, which is your behavior, which comes out of your inner self, right? Because your inner thoughts always come out as actions and they convert into the way you deal with people. So your behavior, your etiquette, and your self-concept, all of this comes as your B. Your communication, be it your verbal or your non-verbal. So these are your 3 strongest hacks in terms of understanding that if you use these 3 ABCs, you have got yourself sorted in terms of impact. Your super hack to PRIM is one word, and that is authenticity. If you are your authentic self, you're pretty much sorted to take the next few steps. But if you're not authentic, it's time to relook at yourself and reinvent yourself. Okay? How at work do you introduce yourself? What kind of body language is needed in terms of communicating? What is the kind of voice? How do you impact by using your voice in the best manner? These are all things that involve a lot of integrated learning, of course, but you must know that it comes as part of PRIM and how you build yourself. What sort of clarity you give to your speech when you speak? Do you have a mother tongue influence when you speak? in such a way that probably a person who's alien to your mother tongue is not able to understand the way you speak. Maybe you need to do something about that. So these are areas which you need to watch out. How do you use your voice? And how do you create an impact using your voice? There could be a number of things when it comes to your verbal skills and your non-verbal skills. How is your posture? What are the kind of gestures you use? What sort of eye contact do you have? A number of things again in that whole world of non-verbal communication. And we know that sometimes silently also we are communicating, right? So these are small little ways where if you have not done things about it, time to reinvent and reboot your entire system so that ahead your journey becomes a little more pleasurable. And like